All right, guys, Traversal ENT here. Welcome back, guys. Back with another one. Today, we're going to look at Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. We're going to look specifically at stuff like location of the fight. We're going to look at purse for the fight. We're going to look at, roughly how much both fighters are looking to get out of this fight, and a few more other details that might be worth mentioning, guys. So stick around for the video. Make sure you do the right thing, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like the video also. We're about to go in, all right? All right. Check it out. So, first things first. Bob Arum was interviewed by a gentleman by the name of Gareth. I believe he's from the United Kingdom because I do recognize that name. Gareth A. Davis, right? And he was asked about where they might possibly stage this fight. Now, we know the whole staging of the fight potentially could be an issue, especially with COVID-19 at the moment. So, what's Bob Arum saying about the staging of the fight? Bob Arum has completely ruled out the United States of America for this fight to take place. But here's the thing, guys. Do you know the reasons why Bob Arum has said the US is a no-no? Mainly, guys, because he says Anthony Joshua is not very much. He doesn't mean very much in the United States. That's the exact quote. Anthony Joshua doesn't mean very much in the United States. Guys, do you agree with that? Now, let me see what I think about that, because there's a few points I want to hit on this video. I don't want to make it a long one. This is the first point I want to hit. Who is the bigger draw in the US? Now, I've got to tell you straight away off the bat, it's Tyson Fury. Why? I'll give you one example. When Tyson Fury fought Wilder, do you remember that video when he was out in the streets and he was asking Americans, anyone know Deontay Wilder? And no one knew who Wilder was. I was quite surprised by that video. I don't know if it was edited or not, but that shocked me, right? That's the first thing, guys. And he's also done WWE. He's done he appeared on that. He had millions of viewers watching him. The average person knows Tyson Fury in the United States. He's such a big guy anyway. He's hard to miss. Do you know what I mean? And he's becoming Tyson Fury in the United Kingdom. Once upon a time, never had that sort of clout. Today, Tyson Fury, what he's done is he's brought his American hype over to the United Kingdom, and it's as of late, as in last, I'd say, year and a half, the UK has become a lot warmer towards Tyson Fury, whereas before, the UK really rejected Tyson Fury. That's the honest truth. Can you believe that? We rejected a guy who's almost 7 foot tall, who can fight, who can box. We tried to crush this man in the United Kingdom. Joke of a country, the UK is nearly done. That's what we're nearly done with Tyson Fury. It's only now, in the last year and a half, max, that we're opening our arms to Tyson. So, that's Tyson Fury. How about AJ then? Anthony Joshua, in the United Kingdom, he's larger than life. So do Americans know Joshua? They're gonna know of Joshua because Joshua's like a celebrity in the UK. So there's no way an American won't know Joshua. But he's not notorious in the United States. He's known to, the hardcores know him completely. The casual fans, I'd say 50% might know him, but he's not notorious in the United States. So there is some merit to what Bob Arum is saying in not bringing Joshua to the US because, quite frankly, he's not that big over there. Well, I think there's some merit to what he's saying, to be honest with you. I think there is some merit to what he's saying. I don't always agree with Bob Arum. Most of the times I don't. But on this regard, I think I do. Let's move on, right? Then I read an article that said this about Anthony Joshua, yeah? I thought it was a bit funny. The article said this about AJ. It said that AJ looked out of his element when he walked into the ring to face Ruiz at Madison Square Garden that night. So in the United States, when Joshua went over there, he looked out of his element. And why did they say, the reasons they gave for it is, having grown accustomed to the cheering from his loyal fans in the UK, Joshua appeared uncomfortable in his loss to David Ruiz, right? Sorry, to Andy Ruiz, right? So there are some truths to that. Joshua looked completely uncomfortable when he came out against Ruiz in the first fight. Completely uncomfortable. And yes, if you're a British fighter from the UK, you do grow accustomed to the sounds and the chants. They say the same, as the saying goes, and the saying stands for almost every sport where British people love, right? So almost every sport that British people love, they are usually the loudest fans, the most loyal fans. They will stick by the Brit. That's one thing you can't take that away from us Brits. We are the loudest. We create and invent songs. You just can't match us when it comes to that. So they asked Bob Arum, where do you see the fight taking place? Bear in mind, it's him and Eddie Hearn negotiating all of this, right? So he says, now there's some possibilities and some ideas that they're looking to entertain, right? There's this venue in Singapore. For those of you who don't know, Singapore, guys, not far from Malaysia, other side of the world if you live in the United States, right? There's a massive venue in Singapore that could possibly host this fight and that could bring in a lot of what do you call it, fans in the arena. So that's one of the options that they're looking at. There's a little problem with that. I think who the venue is owned by, the individual who owns the venue, or the head person that they would have to communicate with. He passed away recently, so that brings about certain kind of complications. But that potential is there, and the possibility is there. Nothing has been penned in, guys. At the moment, they've all penciling in locations and venue sites, right? So what else then? Other developments in terms of location, as I said before, the Middle East, but it only hosts about 10,000 people in the Middle East. To be honest with you, that's a big shame that only 10,000 people, if it does happen over there, will be able to witness the fight. Because you have to assume that of the 10,000, a good percentage of that are going to be the Arabs that live in the Middle East. So how many more tickets will be available to the Brits and anyone else from across the world and the US market to come over there and watch the fight? Because make no mistake, a lot of people are going to want to see that fight. Then the wealthy lot will buy a lot of those other tickets, and the casual fan, the price of the ticket for the casual fan, I don't know how much casual fans will actually be there if it's only 10,000 in the Middle East. So the Middle East is one option, but again, there's other problems with that site, as in vaccination problems and all sorts of different logistics they got to look at, Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum, right? Move on then. What is the purse split for the fight? Now, there's reports. There are reports, guys, that number one, this fight will be split 50-50. Each fighter is looking to walk out of this fight with a massive 200 million US dollars in their bank account after the two fights that these guys will have. Bear in mind that they're scheduled for two fights, guys, right? So at the end of that, 200 million, so 100 million per fight, yeah? That's a lot of money. The problem, there's not a problem. What they're suspecting is that both fighters after this will be far too wealthy to even want to consider fighting anymore, and they'll call it quits. They'll pack it in. There'll be no reason to fight. In the case of Tyson Fury, right? If Tyson Fury wins, they're saying he's going to be the most dominant heavyweight since Mike Tyson, because he would have beaten Anthony Joshua twice. He would have beaten Deontay Wilder once and drew with him. He would have beaten Vladimir Klitschko, who was a heavy dominant champion. He would have done it all. He would have done it all, is what they're saying. So there's no reason for him to fight after making 200 million if he wins the Joshua fights. That makes sense to me. Listen, I'll give you 200 million right now. You're not thinking about punching someone's head in. You're thinking about splashing that money. You're thinking about all sorts of fun stuff or debaucheries, depending on the sort of person you are, right? Some of you are thinking about which girl you're going to go out with because you probably haven't had a date in a long time. Don't blame you with COVID. A lot of people haven't had a chance to really explore their love life like that. But I digress. 200 million is a lot of money for this fight. That looks like it's going to be the purse split 50-50. And that's great. It's good to see two fighters who are huge, large, coming into agreement relatively quickly. I like that. So Bob Arum mentioned something about that as well, though. He says that Tyson Fury, most likely after this fight, he'll lose interest in boxing, right? He said, and I quote, he'll have so much wealth that his attention may be directed towards other pursuits. Then he goes on to say, if I were handling his other matters other than boxing, he would be spectacular. There'll be a lot of parts for him as a movie actor. He's really a truly interesting personality. And yeah, he can carry a tune. That's what Bob Arum said. That was my best attempt at Bob Arum's accent. I know I'm not the best at it. I gave it my best, right? So he's saying there's a lot of avenues that Tyson Fury can get into. Hollywood. He can produce have a little music career if he chose to. So more wrestling, for example. Fury's got the world at his oyster. But then so has AJ. roll that his oyster too. But I don't ask me what AJ's going to get involved with if he finishes fighting Fury. I believe if AJ has 2 fights with Tyson Fury, I believe AJ will call it a day as well. I don't see AJ then fighting someone like a Deontay Wilder after he's fought Fury twice. I cannot see that happening at all. I just can't. That's the situation, guys. Let's look at the last and final point. Last and final point is really in terms of Tyson Fury. If he beats Joshua, because you know Fury's saying that even after Joshua he'll still want to stick around and still have fights. I don't believe that for 1 second. If after Joshua they're asking who does Fury fight if he wins both of those fights. Now, Deontay Wilder and Fury has stated he's not interested in fighting Wilder. And to be honest with you, if that's the case and he's losing out on some money, because outside of Joshua, who else is he going to make really? Who else is he really going to make money with? He needs a good dance partner, right? So the names they've got here is Joe Joyce against Tyson Fury. That's not a big fight. Well, it's a decent fight, but it's not 200 million. Dillian White Fury, I think that's a great fight. Povetkin Fury, no. Andy Ruiz Fury, no. Daniel Dubois Fury, I don't want to mention Daniel Dubois' name until he comes back to boxing and has a good win, all right? As far as I'm concerned, call it what you want. Daniel Dubois, for me, was a hype job. Or maybe he was still developing and he was sped up, right? So let's not talk about Daniel Dubois. Joseph Parker, no. So all these fights I've mentioned, none of them are 200 million fights. The only one I personally like out of those lot there is the White fight. I think the Joe Joyce fight can be all right. It's interesting. The Joyce and the White fight are the only fights I really want to see. Fury against Parker. There's no way Parker's beating Tyson Fury. It's just too much. Fury's too big. So that's it, guys. That's all the latest with Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua in terms of logistics, in terms of location, purse split, and all of that stuff, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the video with some update. Traversal ENT. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm signing out.